So if you are recruiting like someone like that is 16, you have to get the approval
from the minister. Exactly.
Oh,
so between the age of 16 and 18. So generally, you're expected to start employment from the age of 18. But if you are below 18, some sort of approvals are supposed to be gotten.
No.
But people don't go through this route. People just recruit because they are trying to fill up or close a particular job role, or get their productivity or get an output. So they leverage or take advantage of the gaps in the system, which shouldn't be, right? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Expert Explorer, where we talk about everything employment, the facts, the myth, and everything in between.
That's right.
I'm your host, Mide, a globally certified HR consultant with about 10 years of experience servicing the FSI, ENR, tech, and consulting sector. Over here with me is my co-host and cousin.
Hi, guys. My name is Aisha, and I'm a HR professional, and I work in the tech space.
Thank you very much for staying tuned to our third episode.
Thank you.
We really love you. Thank you. And if you've not watched our episodes, you are missing a great deal. You should actually go back and watch the first and second series, right? The second episode, the first episode on the recruitment series. We want to appreciate everyone who has also shared their comments, their questions. We are going to take it in our next episode. So currently, we want to discuss what the labor law has to say about recruitment. So I'd like to share something today. Cousin, are you aware that if you invite candidates to your company for interviews, right, you're supposed to reimburse them for the cost of the transportation for coming for that interview?
It's a lie.
I'm telling you.
It's a lie.
Yes.
How much would you have to pay?
I'm telling you. But unfortunately, most recruiters don't do that.
Yeah.
In fact, most organizations don't do that.
Yeah.
And it is meant to be the general practice, right? Even though now, most interviews have been digitalized. You have people going to appearing for interviews virtually without having to go for the interview in person, right? But
so are you now going to say if you are having like a virtual interview, you have to reimburse them their data?
Honestly, so
but that's like their passport to if you look at it.
True. Unfortunately, I don't think the federal government or the Ministry of Labor has revised they are even looking at revising the current Labor Act because there are so many things that are no longer, they're quite traditional and are no longer,
they are not in tune with the time that we are currently in.
With the season. Exactly. So this is us pushing it to them. They need to rise up to the challenge and revamp our Labor Act. So many things are no longer in trend, right? Are no longer practicable because things have evolved.
Technology has like evolved.
Exactly. So again, it would be good to also spell out that there are some things required of recruiters, right, before they can practice. There are so many things that we are just abusing in Nigeria because we are not looking at the labor law. Right. There's a part of the labor law that requires that you need to have a license certified by or provided by the minister. That's the Labor Act, the labor minister. Right. It must be or confirmed by the labor minister, right, for you to be able to practice as a recruiter in Nigeria. Yes. But most times you have recruiters just using it as a side hustle.
Very common.
Some persons would be HR practitioners in an organization, but because they've seen that recruitment is one place they can actually make side hustles,
they just take up that responsibility.
And it is very common with I would say the tech space. Because the tech space requires very special type of talent, unique talent. And so for you to get those special categories of persons, you need to do a little bit more of research on the technicalities enlightening yourself about the technical skills and all
Yes,
whatnot.
what to look
And
out
so,
for, what to check. Yeah,
yes, in light of this, most people just forget that they need to also check out what the labor law states
says yes.
about recruitment.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
Again,
it's nice about talking about it now because normally an average person, like, it's not very common. It's not a common knowledge, like when
mhm,
it comes to like Nigerian and recruiters. Like
mhm,
people don't really think it's a different thing. They're like, oh, maybe employer license is a different thing. But
mhm,
as a an entity that you're just like, oh, doing it as a side hustle, like maybe
mhm.
just posting it online, and or you just think like, okay, what I'm doing is not a big deal. But really, according to the labor law, you have to be certified. You have to have that license
License,
before you can practice as a
exactly,
recruiter. So you guys should take
exactly.
note of that. Yeah.
An organization or an
And yes,
individual, you must
yes,
have that license. One other thing we want to raise an awareness for, right, is the minimum age.
yeah,
I know that there are so many things that are not being monitored here in the country. For instance, you go to, for those persons that are ad hoc staff, right, in
yes, yes,
construction
yes, yes, yes.
companies,
Underage, it's very common, especially
yes,
like in ad hoc space or like maybe production space. It's a
exactly.
common
You
thing.
have people in small
Allegedly.
communities. You have people in small communities who probably are employing people to do their pure water production,
Mm-hmm.
right? They give openings to people that are not even of age. Now, even look at the current realities. You go out there and then you see people hawking on the road.
Yeah.
That is also an employment, a form of employment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if there is any form of way that the our leaders can help to curb and control this,
Yeah.
right? Whilst
Put
not
checks in place
hampering, yes, the livelihood of
of
these
those people.
persons, right, that
Yes.
are hustling,
Just to
struggling to
make
try to
ends meet.
just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
You know, their situation. I mean, if you go to the slum, you'll be dazed. There was a time I did like an outreach where we went to the slum, to a small community, a small a school, right, that did not have furnitures,
Wow.
right, somewhere on the mainland. And when we got there, a teacher was telling us, or their headmaster was telling us that we we should actually try to support, because some of these students don't come to school,
Hmm.
and the reason why they don't come to school is because their parents are busy trying to do one thing or the other and sending them to go
To
and
hawk.
hawk.
Some of them
So
go to the
exactly,
farm just to make the family
survive.
survive.
And then
Yeah.
what is currently in place for disabled parents, parents that they cannot do, they don't have the capacity to actually go out there and even fend for their family. And because
Hmm.
they have a child that can walk,
Yes.
that can reason, maybe
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
calculate
Calculate
money,
1 10 naira plus
and
20
then they
naira.
send
Yes,
such,
okay.
exactly,
Yeah,
they
you're
send
good
such
enough.
persons,
Mm.
right, to go and work. There are so many anomalies going on currently, and I believe that one day, I'm very hopeful. I'm a fan
Yeah.
of Nigeria. I believe that one day we're
Yeah,
going
it
to be
will be
able to
better.
flush out all of these anomalies and put
Yeah.
in a proper system where, you know, those who are not supposed to be in employment are
And
given an
yeah.
opportunity to grow, learn,
Yeah.
acquire the
The
competencies, the
skills.
skills,
Mm-hmm.
knowledge, develop themselves. And then when
Yeah.
they now get to that point where they can take decisions for themselves, maybe from the age of 16, right? Because the minimum age is actually
Yeah,
16
I was going
by
to
the
ask that.
labor
Like,
law.
okay, what's the minimum
Yes,
age?
the minimum
Okay.
age is 16. But again, right, you must also get, you know, the approval of the
The guardian
minister,
or what?
right? If
Okay.
it's at that level, if whoever you are employing is 16 years of age, you're supposed
So
to,
if you are recruiting like someone like that is 16, you have to
exactly,
get the approval from
from the
from
minister,
the minister.
exactly.
Oh wow,
So
that's
between the age of 16 and 18. So generally, you're expected to start employment from the age of 18.
yeah.
But if you are below 18, some sort of approvals are supposed to be gotten, you know.
No.
But people don't go through this route. You know, people just recruit because they are trying to fill up or close a particular job
Yeah.
role, you know, or get their productivity or get an output, you know. So they leverage or take advantage of the gaps in the system, which shouldn't be,
Shouldn't be.
right?
Yeah.
So lastly, I want to raise an awareness, and I know
Very
that
important. Very important.
honestly, I know that in the Nigerian system, right, most people just employ, they recruit and then they employ.
Yeah.
But the labor law requires that you do a fitness test,
It's very important.
a
Yeah.
medical test
Yeah.
for whoever you're employing. Thumbs up to those organizations that
That do
actually,
that.
yes, that abide by the requirement of the labor law.
Yes.
But again, this is to push it to the minister or the Ministry of Labor to say that there are some things that need to conform with the realities of employment in the Nigeria of today.
Yeah.
Because when you say you want to do fitness or medical tests for people, do you want to apply that to people who are working remotely?
Yes, I was going to ask that question.
Honestly,
What if you have a team? Like, okay, I believe like for medical fitness, like for you are recruiting someone newly, you need to check like maybe are they good on all aspects or all this kind of like diseases. Check for that to ensure because you'll be working with different people, so everybody needs to be rest assured that everyone here is safe to work with them and safe to work with them. But if you're handling like a remote kind of work, you don't necessarily get to mix with each other. You're just there are times that people are in like different geographical spaces, and so how do you like handle that? How do you manage that? I know that even like most like HMOs, like they've made it actually easy. They offer that like okay pre-employment screening like for you to get tested and all. But what if the person is not like maybe in Nigeria, for example? What do you do in that
light? Exactly. Yes. And whilst we are not discarding the importance of doing
it's actually very important to do that. Yes.
I remember there was a scenario, disclaimer please, I'm not trying to expose it. In one of my experiences, we had to conduct like a medical test for an employee or a candidate, and we discovered that the person was HIV positive. Right. Okay. It wasn't HIV. Yes, there was one that had HIV, and then there was another one that had hepatitis.
Okay.
And of course, hepatitis was something communicable.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. In that stead, I would understand why, the ministry is saying test your people so that you can prevent it. I mean, it is the duty of the federal government to protect the lives and property of the citizens of its country. So, of course, in that light, I understand. But I believe that there should be caveats, flexibility in the labor law.
So because these people too, they deserve to be employed.
It comes at a cost. So you are not necessarily employing some people, but you are conducting medical tests for them. Don't you think that, the recruitment process, according to the labor law, requires that you test people even at the point of recruitment?
Okay. So it's not like necessarily like
at the point of employment. No.
Okay. Oh, that's
so you conduct fitness tests during the recruitment
and process. There's no caveat that says that maybe like a kind of recruitment that requires like maybe physical kind of work, like maybe all these people that get recruited for paramilitary or military that need like for the recruitment stage they need to get their hands dirty, they need to do things physical. They're just
by my interpretation, the labor law requires that you test everyone that is coming into your recruitment process.
Wow.
So, and I can understand it in some cases, right? For instance,
any case,
because in some cases, for instance, if you are recruiting people that need to carry ladder or bricks,
sure,
you need to be sure that they are even fit in the first place, especially if no particular skill is required. But again, if we look at it, we can also, and this is not me advising people to bypass that, right? I'm just saying that some organizations have now, remodeled their process to say, we are not going to test you before you even get into our system. We're going to we're going to initiate an offer for you.
Yeah.
To you, right? We're going to send you an offer once we've clarified that you even meet the minimum requirements.
Okay.
Competency wise, you
Mm-hmm.
meet the minimum, you meet our requirement, and we want to give you an offer.
Yeah.
So before we extend our offer to you, we're going to go for
A medical test.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
going to go for a medical
That
test.
that's more reasonable and
yes.
more like relatable to like the present like practice now,
exactly.
because why are you like conducting like physical like medical tests for people that are just like maybe trying to, you're just looking at their series, you're just in the first stage of like recruitment.
Exactly.
I don't know how that relates or how that applies, because I feel like it's a waste of like money. It's like I'm just trying to like think about like, okay, unless like, oh, you are bring, maybe I'm talking about it from my own point of view, like my own bias, because mostly like my recruitment is like, oh, remote based, so I don't see any reason. But for people that like recruit, like, oh, you need to have be like there physically, maybe for them to like mingle with like other people that are going to be in the office, because they are coming into your space, they are going to interact with like your current employees, maybe to avoid like any forms of like, oh, stories or any forms of like um any issues when they come into your space. Maybe that I can understand it from that point of view. But if you are recruiting like remotely, the interview process, the recruitment process from A to Z is remotely, is virtually, and they are going to be working fully remote. I really don't like, I don't know how to balance that, or I don't see the correlation in my own opinion.
Yes, we believe that there can be things, there are always rooms for improvement,
Yeah,
as
of
far
course.
as long as we live, right, there would always be room for
Of
improvement.
course.
So this is us, challenging the current existing Labor Act, right, to say that our Ministry of Labor needs to rise up to the occasion and check some of these policies currently existing,
Yeah.
do like a review. And I
Yeah.
know in law, literally, right, once something has been passed by law, then it can ride off as an addendum. What I was referring to is when you go for, if a case should happen now and they make reference to the labor law,
Yeah.
I think, right,
Allegedly.
I think that what usually happens is whatever is decided by the court of law, right, would now pass as an addendum.
Okay.
I think it is more like a repeal to what is currently existing
Okay.
in the labor law. Or if there is a gap, for instance, if the labor law does not say anything about the practice that should happen for digital or a remote thing, right, and then it's taken to court, whatever is decided at the Supreme Court, right, that's my belief. I don't know. This is my opinion. Disclaimer, please. Right. I believe that whatever is decided is now what is being used, as an addendum to, or as a template for
like,
any law
yeah,
to, or any
that would
practice.
come up
Yes,
later.
any practice in any employment to now, build from that and incorporate that into their system.
Yeah, that makes sense, because when there is no like something guiding you, or something like there's no template, there's nothing you're looking to do this, all these practices, it just gives room to like anyhowness, because everybody will do what pleases them, everybody will do what they feel like works for them. So but if there's something that is guiding everyone, if there's a law in place that is like guiding everyone, like, okay, this is the usual, this is the acceptable practice, you know that if you're not doing it, you know that, okay, I decided that, oh, I'm not going to follow this law
with this.
But if there is nothing that actually states that, okay, this is how it's supposed to be, everybody will just be their own boss, everybody will just be saying, just be doing whatever they want. So I think it's very important that like that review, like, it should be looked into and be revised to like accommodate the Nigeria of today, like recruitment of today, to take into consideration like the technological advancements, everything that's changed in the recruitment space generally, and the country that we are currently in. So yeah,
absolutely. All right. So thank you all for staying tuned to the end of this session, to the end of this episode. We like that you've been following us up until this time. We would like to take a bow and receive questions from you. So
Yeah.
please make sure to send an email to the Expert Explorer. Actually, the email address is expertexplorer.ng
At
at gmail.com.
gmail.com.
We're also going to inscribe it in our post, right? So please make sure you send in your comments, your likes, um, your questions, yeah,
feedback.
Exactly.
We're open to everything.
Yes, and we're going to pick it up,
yeah,
and respond to it in our next episode.
yeah.
Thank you for staying tuned.
Thank you for joining.
Like,
share, do all those things. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Yeah, I think that's also
and everything that
yes. Tell your friends, tell your mommy, tell your colleague, tell everybody.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you. Bye.